All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Friday edition of the Paranormal Portal. How you guys doing? Welcome. Hope you're on your way to an epic weekend. And thank you so much for being here with me for part of it. I think that's awesome. And it truly is an honor that you're choosing to spend part of that sacred time right here in the portal. So, hello, Barbara Mora and Josh Casto and Big D over on Rumble. How you guys doing? Eric Fry, Cecil Webb Jr., Eric Fry. Once again, Rachel gets it right. Flyer Tuck, Chucky Danger. Let's see who else. Big Birds over, and these are all the YouTubers that are watching. Deborah Neighbors. Who else did I say, Cecil? If I didn't, I did again. I'm just looking for any other names that are popping up right out of the gates. It's kind of like we got to wait for everybody to catch up with us here. It always takes people a little bit of time to find their way into the portal, but once you're in, you can't get out. It's like a roach motel. Luke Griffin's in here, and who was it that was first tonight? I got to look over here. Who was first? It was Rachel was first tonight. Right through the gate, Rachel turned on the lights for all of us. So thank you, Rachel. And you won tonight for whatever that's worth. Just a little bit of pride, maybe. Sharon Sunshine popped in. How you doing? Great to see you guys. Each and every one. Larry and Shirley Bell, awesome to see you as well. Kitty Cattywack is here. Kitty Cattywack says, Brent, it was a great show with you and Dave. I enjoyed it very much. Well, yeah, I did too. Honestly, I'm always happy to go on different shows and talk to the hosts and stuff. Barry Anderson from Florida came in. He's over on Facebook. Good to see you, brother. And I like talking to everybody. I honestly do, but I had extra fun talking to Dave last night. I was only supposed to be there for 2 hours. And he said, hey, we should just make this 3 hours. Let's just go the full 3 hours. So it's like, I'm there with you. So we did. We had a 3-hour talk. And it really went like that. It honestly did. It went so quickly. We had a great discussion. Dave's a fantastic guy. Now, I've never, ever met Dave before this. And it's funny because we've been orbiting each other in this sphere for a lot of years. He's been at it for, I guess, 10 years. And I've been at it now for 8. So I guess we kind of came in around the same time. But, I just never met the guy. I'd watched some of his shows through the years, and I always enjoyed him. Dave is exceptionally good at what he does. He's a very talented host, and he's got a real neat energy and a real great delivery. So it was a lot of fun to be there on his show with him as he was doing that Dave magic that he does. But it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and we're going to get Dave over here on the portal, I think May 10th. He's going to come over here on the portal with me, and we're going to hang out for a couple hours and talk about we're going to reverse the roles. He's going to be on the hot seat and taking all the pressure. It'll be fun, though. I really did enjoy getting to know Dave, and I'm really thrilled that some of you guys came over and hung out with us as well. That was really cool. And I hope you guys get subscribed to Dave over at Spaced Out Radio. It's really awesome. Speaking of subscribing, Lon Strickler was streaming just earlier, right before the show on YouTube as well. So if you haven't checked out Lon's YouTube page, please do. It's Phantoms and Monsters Radio. Lon does an exceptional job, and he's just brilliant. And he streams live every Friday night, so it's a great way to spend your Friday. Start out with Dave. Or not Dave, but Lon over on Phantoms and Monsters Radio and hang out with me. And then after me, I guess you can go hang out with Spaced Out Radio. I think that's kind of a full sweep. I don't know. Not that there's no other shows you could go check out, but those are the ones that I know that are going on tonight. So excellent use of your time. So anyway, we got a lot to get to tonight. Sheldon's not going to be here tonight. He's actually here. He's in my neighborhood, not quite up here. He's visiting family that live near here, so he's not going to be joining us tonight. It's just going to be me and you guys. You guys are my co-hosts, so help me get there. Here from Florida on Friday. What? What are you talking about, Barry? What's going on? Barry says here from Florida on Friday. Oh, I guess it was just that you're from Florida and you're here on a Friday. Yeah. Sorry, I just didn't know if I was catching the tail end of a comment or something. Great show. I listened to it today. Oh, you listened to the Dave Scott interview? Thank you. That was it really was a lot of fun. Bogart rolls in and he remembered. I got to remember my buttons. It's so weird to reach way over and get my buttons. I don't know if I'll be able to figure out maybe a different arrangement for that. Like I should probably, it's kind of sitting sideways next to me, so I got to reach extra far. I'm probably going to figure out a way to rig it so I can rotate it and kind of have it at an angle right towards me. Kind of get the command center vibe here so everything's within reach. And we'll sort that out. But the new setup is working good. The new computer is working great. And just having a blast with it. So thank you, Bogart, for remembering and remembering. Appreciate it. It says, love your channel. Oh, that's really cool. Thank you so much. That means the world to me. It really does, really does. All right. So as always, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be getting in the news here shortly and find out just what the hell's going on in the world around us. Then we're going to get to some hospital horrors. Now, I called the episode tonight Hospital Horrors. And these were an article that we started on Wednesday, dealing with nurses sharing their night shift spooky experiences in hospitals and stuff. So I was like, yeah, we're going to do it. Rachel says the chat crew on Spaced Out Radio are really great folks too. They are. I think they've, it's kind of like you guys here. You guys have been family for me for years. Many of you, and some of you are more newer, but you all fit in so great together, and you got this really cool community. And it looked like the same was true for Spaced Out Radio. And I know we share some listeners, which is really cool. In fact, I think it was somebody put in a plug for me with Dave, and I don't remember who it was, and I apologize because that makes me look like an idiot. But I if you're not really familiar with me, honest to God, and this is not a crutch, it's the truth. I have a dyslexia for names. I've always had it. I cannot grab names very well. I really, 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 really have to work at it to remember names. I remember people. I remember faces, like absolutely. But names, for some reason, just don't stick in my head. So if I ever forget your name, please don't take it personally. I've been doing it my whole life, and it's probably a really bad trait in a host. So I should probably do more of that salesman kind of thing. Oh, yeah, T-Bone's a mod over there. Yeah, I think that's right. I think you're right. Yeah, T-Bone's over there. Grandizer, I think he's definitely usually over there, but I didn't see him last night. I mean, he might have been there. I really wasn't watching the chat a ton, just a little bit as I was on there. But I was doing a lot of talking and thinking and how to respond. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. So if you haven't checked out that episode, check out Spaced Out Radio from last night. My interview being Dave Scott's guest over there. And yeah, I think it was Rachel. Rachel said during the interview, was like, did you guys just become best friends? We did. We really clicked really nice. It was really cool. I had a lot of good times, a lot of good memories, and we'll make some more when Dave comes on the portal in May. So look forward to that, folks. All right, I guess it's time to get to some news. What do you guys think? Hey, Josh Casto, double dipping from Rumble and YouTube. Good to see you both places, brother. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And Barbara Moore is over there too on Rumble. Yeah, it's still Barbara, Josh, and Big D. Gotcha. Great to see you guys over there. Where's Justin? Justin's running late. Doggone it. That's all right. We won't hold it against him. John Stevenson piled in. John Temperin. And the Johns are represented. At least two of them. I know we got more, but that's the ones that are here right now. Good to see you guys, both of you. Thank you for coming in. Annie Manuel popped in as well. So lots of things going on here. So Elaine Clifford, good to see you. Good to see you. I think I'm saying hello to everybody as your names are popping up. It's great to have you guys here. So let's get to the news and find out what's going on. What is the news? Find it out. We're going to find out the news. I pulled up a few articles. We'll read 3, maybe 4. We'll see how it goes. See how quickly they go. But ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the news. right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal News Desk. I'm your anchor, Brent Thomas, and we are going to dive into the news. That's what we do here, and that's, by God, what I'm going to do. Hey, Car Juice, good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. She's over there on Rumble as well. Good to have you here. And, anyone else has popped in I missed? Boy, I'm tired. Weeding and planting. The stomach thing saps all your energy. I didn't know you were under the weather, Elaine, but I hope you're feeling better. Yard work will suck the soul out of anybody, though. I like a nice yard. I just don't like what it takes to have a nice yard. But I can appreciate a nice yard, so I'm sure it looks beautiful. But get some rest, relax, Elaine, kick your feet up, and enjoy the portal. We'll try to make you nice and comfy. I'm looking for the right tab here. There we go. Got my news articles ready to go, folks, so we're going to get into these right now. As always, throughout the course of the journey on the portal, we utilize a lot of different sites. And I should probably let me just line this up again, folks. You know, I never really kind of relined this one up, so let me do that. I'm going to take out less of my nipple area, move it up a little bit, slide this down a little bit, and give some more headroom here. There, look at all that sexy in one frame. What more could you want? All right. Again, we utilize a lot of different sites throughout the course of the show, and I just ask you guys please to support these sites. These sites are doing an incredible job. Owl13 popped in. Good to see you. And they need your love. These sites need your love. Mike Prine popped in over on Facebook. He's a gardener as well, I guess. Okay. Lots of yard work going on. There's been plenty here. The Portal House has been all kinds of outdoor gardening fun and shattered dining tables, outdoor dining tables. But I told you guys about that on Wednesday. So you definitely check out and support these sites. Please visit them. They got tons of more information and articles that you're absolutely going to love, all dealing with the paranormal, supernatural, Fortean oddities. And I'm talking Sasquatch Chronicles. I'm talking phantomsandmonsters.com. I'm talking unexplained-mysteries.com. I'm talking Thought Catalog and any others that we happen to stumble into throughout the course of the night. So please give them your love, give them your attention, and help to pay their bills, because traffic equals revenue. So anyway, and it costs revenue as well. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. But anyway, let's get to this. Here's the first one. This one's a modern mysteries file from unexplained-mysteries.com. And I haven't read any of these. Now, a little, fair warning. I don't pre-read anything that I'm reading you guys on the show. I cold read everything. So I will sometimes run into words and I'm like, what do you do with that? And I'll do my best, but if I brutalize some words, don't get offended. That's just that's how I roll. So here we go with Article 1 tonight. This is Modern Mysteries, unexplained-mysteries.com. Mysterious object smashes through auto shop roof in New Jersey. New Jersey. Get a rope. Sorry, it's an old commercial for Pace Picanti. Anyway, let's check this out. I don't know what's going on here, but it sounds pretty wild. The shop's owner arrived for work only to discover a large hole in a pile of debris where the object had struck. CCTV and doorbell cameras in the immediate vicinity of the auto repair shop, which is situated in Magnolia, New Jersey, captured the moment that a bright flash lit up the sky and a mysterious object plummeted from the heavens and straight through the roof at 2:30 a.m. back on April 9th. So very recently. When owner Sebastian Leonardo arrived for work the following day, the first thing he noticed was a large hole in the ceiling and a mess of debris all over the floor. Further signs of damage were found after employees climbed up to take a closer look. A sizable dent in a thick steel gauge box, said Leonardo. And that's when I went to all of the cameras and found the video and realized what had actually happened, a flash outside and the impact in here. You eventually see a giant fireball come through the ceiling and everything comes flying down. It wasn't exactly clear what had hit the shop, but the most likely explanation is that it was a meteorite, although it is possible that a piece of space debris was responsible. There's a bright flash, there's a boom, there's a hole, And that's 3 out of 4 things, said astronomer Derek Pitts. If we had one more thing, like an item that we could identify as being extraterrestrial, then we might say it's something from space. Where the hell else is it from, Derek Pitts? There isn't a lot of terrestrial fireballs coming through roofs around that I know of. They're definitely from outside our space. You can check out the local news report about the incident below, and I can't think of anything better to do. So let's see what the news has to say. This is from 6 ABC from Philadelphia. That's an ABC News affiliate in Philadelphia. Let's see what they got to say. Apparently, they whatever happened, it must have hit that metal box and just basically went boom after it dented that heavy gauge steel. So I'm sure it must have shattered on impact, and there isn't enough to go, oh, well, this is what hit it. But let's take a look.
Mysterious object that fell from the sky and then damaged an auto repair shop in South Jersey. It left a hole in the roof at S&L Automotive. The shop's owner thinks the object may have come from space. Action News reporter Jessica Cartalia is live at the shop in Magnolia, where this is the talk of the town. Jess?
Yeah, Christy, everybody's talking about this. So the owner of the automotive shop came in here. He said things felt a little bit chilly. Something didn't feel right. He walked all the way over here, and then he looked up, and you won't believe what he saw next. In the small town of Magnolia in South Jersey, there's a lot of talk about this. Around 2:30 Wednesday morning, residents were woken up by a loud boom. When Sebastian Leonardo arrived at his auto body shop in Atlantic Avenue later that morning,
that's when I looked up and I saw the giant hole up there in the ceiling.
When employees climbed up to look at the damage to the roof and ceiling, they saw where the unidentified object made impact.
A sizable dent in a thick steel gauge box. Yeah, and so that's when I went to my cameras.
That's pretty hardcore too. I don't know what gauge of box this is, but yeah, it hit with some force. That's like a hell of a shot. That it made that big of a dent there. That's pretty impressive.
In a thick steel gauge box. Yeah, and so that's when I went to my cameras and I found all the videos and realized what had actually happened. You know, it's like the giant flash outside and then the impact in here.
Surveillance footage from cameras in and outside of S&L Automotive show the moment that something collided with the building.
You eventually see like a giant fireball come through the ceiling, and then everything come flying down the roof with it.
Several doorbell cameras at homes around town captured video of the incident. Here's astronomer Derek Pitts of the...
Well, there's Derek right there. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it's not much more to add about it. It's like something came obviously from space. It's like, I don't know what more clues they need to identify it as some kind of meteorite, but came from space and blew a hole in this guy's automotive shop roof and caused some damage. So apparently it wasn't readily identifiable what it was exactly, but it's a meteorite. It's something. So whatever it is, it made a hole in his roof and dented a box and caused a pain in the ass, I guess, for the guy. So there you go. That's the first article. Do you feel more informed? Because I do. I feel like I'm more informed now. So let's get to the next one. There's always more here on the portal, folks. That's how my toilet feels every morning. Oh my God, Foot Clan. That's just an overshare, buddy. I don't know what's going on, but apparently fiber is not your issue if that's the way things are rolling out. You're cooking some horsepower there. What's up, Misfits? Boondock Mojo says, nothing much, brother. Glad you're here, though. Thanks for coming in. So, what did Rachel say? Because Chucky said that's lame. What did you say? Cloudy here. Oh, cloudy. I guess I thought it was funny, but not. It's just a weather report. But that, hey, clouds are okay. Who else came in? Anybody? Steel City Stacker came in. Good to see you. Werewolf is here. And Phil Funk came in. Good to see you all. Thanks, guys. What did the meteor break up with the why did the meteor break up with the asteroid? It needed space. Nice. Thank you. I can appreciate that. Now, Sheldon was here. He would have loved that line. He would have loved that one. He digs some corny dad humor. But, me being a dad, it's cute. It's cute joke. Anyway, good for a family-friendly show, much like The Portal. So there you go. That's the first one. Let's see what else is going on here. The next one, I don't know what this is. This is, I mean, of course, there's always been controversies about what kind of secret tech is there and what is it capable of. If the headline is an indication about what we're about to read, then this is pretty fascinating. I don't know. I'm not saying it's for sure real, for sure a thing, but what if it is? All right, let's check it out. This is the next article from unexplained-mysteries.com from the Science and Technology. This one's not too long. It's fine. We should be able to read this. Here it is. U.S. can manipulate time and space, claims Trump's science director. What? Really? Whoa. Let's see what it says. Michael Kratsios, I guess Kratsios or Kratsios, recently made the startling claim during a speech about American science innovations. Conspiracy theorists have long suspected that the United States might be in possession of secretive advanced technologies, a rumor that's seen a lot more traction in recent years thanks to stories of UFO reverse engineering programs and long-running government cover-ups. Now, a startling new claim by Michael Kratsios, President Trump's science advisor and director of the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, has sparked a whole new round of rumors concerning exactly what type of technologies the U.S. might be keeping under wraps. Kratsios has been speaking at an event at the Endless Frontiers Retreat, which focused on the rebuilding the foundations of American strength at a time of geographical and technological upheaval. That's a lot of words. Much of his speech had been about the past American scientific innovations, with an emphasis on recent stagnation in this area, but the part that raised eyebrows was all to do with specific technologies that he claimed that the U.S. already has access to. Ooh. Let's see what happens. We seem to have lost focus and vision, to have lowered our sights and let systems and structures and bureaucracies muddle us along, he said. But we are capable of so much more. Hey, Flip Dizzies, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Really appreciate it. But we're capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, cause things to grow, and improve productivity. Is it a metaphor, or is he being literal here, or is this a metaphor? Some kind of symbolic speech? I don't know. Let's see what happens in the rest of the article here. Unsurprisingly, his mention of technologies that can manipulate time and space has since prompted a great deal of speculation over what he could possibly be referring to. There is no known technology that can do this, so what on earth is he talking about? Could he be aware of some secretive technology kept hidden from the general public, or was this simply a poor choice of words on his part? While some have argued that he was simply speaking metaphorically, that's what I said, others have suggested that he either messed up and revealed something he shouldn't, or was intentionally trying to tip people off to something behind the scenes that nobody currently knows about. What do you think? I don't know. What do you guys think? Let's do a quick chat survey in the chats. Get ready with the 1 or 0. Do you believe that the U.S. government could have technologies that currently manipulate time and space? Put a 1 in chat if you think, yes, they certainly do have that. That's definitely something that's out there. Or 0 if you think, nah, they can't quite do that yet. Let me know in the chat. 1 or 0. 1 yes, 0 no. What do you got? 1. Big Bird says yes. Sharon Sunshine says yes. Big Bird 1. Bogart 1. Steel City Stacker 1. Annie Manul says 0. Luke Griffin says 0. Whoa. Elaine Clifford and Werewolf and John Stevenson. Owl 13 all say 0. Kat Doherty says 1. Eric Fry 0. Rachel Wizard and Chucky all say 1. Phil Funk 1. Foot Clan 10. I don't know where you're going with this, Foot Clan. But 10 wasn't an option. Unless that's a 1 and a 0 or 0, 1. John Temperance says yes and no, no, yes. There you go. I don't know. I guess it's kind of a split board here tonight. I think the ones kind of win, but it's not so, it's kind of close. So I don't know. Maybe they do. I don't know what to think about this. Let's look at his actual post here, or what was said. White House, this is from UAP James on X, says, White House Office of Science and Technology Policy Director Michael Kratzios says the U.S. has technology that can manipulate time and space. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated. So, I don't know. Is this an actual quote here? Let's check it out.
Our passenger planes are slower than they used to be. Our trains crawl compared to those in other parts of the world. Our cars do not fly.
Shark.
Advances have not stopped, but something
Ghostbox says shark.
Stagnation was a choice. We have weighed down our builders and innovators. The well-intentioned regulatory regime of the 1970s became an ever-tightening ratchet, first hampering America's ability to become a net energy exporter and then making it harder and harder to build. We seem to have lost focus and vision, to have lowered our sights and let systems and structures and bureaucracies muddle us along. But we are capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, cause things to grow and improve productivity.
Interesting. That's the quote right there, folks. How do you take that? Is he revealing something, or is that, again, a metaphorical reference? Over in Rumble, Barbara Mora says yes, CERN. And Big D says yes with a 1 over there. Car Juice didn't say. No vote from Car Juice or Dog Digger. How you doing, Dog Digger? Good to see you over there, brother. So I guess, yeah, I mean, it seems like the ones win that most of you think, yeah, there's something like that out there. I don't know. I don't know what to make of his statements. Barbara does say, why would they let that out in public? Misinformation, in my opinion. Could be. I don't know if it was intentional or accidental. I don't know. Maybe he was trying to state something in a metaphorical way to make it sound powerful and give real imagery. But he's right. Our cars currently don't fly. There's some drone kind of cars. We were supposed to be the Jetsons already by that. I don't know what happened, but I would dig some flying cars, I think, as long as they were really good at not crashing. But anyway, I don't know. It's speculative, of course. But what is this? I don't know what you're saying, Snuffy, over there in YouTube chat. The railway hotel story. That's interesting. I don't know what that really is referencing to. I'm not familiar with the railway hotel story, but my buddy Brett used my old military name, Snuffy Smith. We got a house shack in a really poor town. Okay, well, I'm not sure what that's referencing, Snuffy, but nice to meet you, first of all. Thanks for coming in and checking out the show. That's the quote, folks. I don't know. Could he be revealing something? Maybe. It's an odd delivery. It's like, I don't know where he's doing. I don't know where he's doing this speech, because it doesn't look like an official White House function. Building a strong America, endless frontiers. I don't know. I don't know what this is. Some kind of speaking engagement, I guess. But there you have it. That's the controversy. Maybe we do. CERN is looking for the God particle, the boson Higgs. I thought they found that already. I thought that was already discovered, Big Bird. The boson Higgs particle, which is basically considered the God particle. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't really have my finger on the pulse of scientific discovery, but I did think that I heard that they discovered evidence of the boson Higgs particle, the God particle. So anyway, interesting. Let's leave that there. We got another article yet to go here, folks. And by God, I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give it to you now. I almost went totally inappropriate there. I don't know. You don't realize the amount of filtering that I have to consciously do every show to not sound like an absolute idiot. And I don't know. I guess I'm more damaged than I think. All right, here we go. This is from Ghosts and Hauntings, so this is definitely more paranormal. And should be interesting. This is kind of an interesting take. I don't know. See what we think of this article. This is from unexplained-mysteries.com. Ghosts and Hauntings Files. How paranormal beliefs can help people cope in certain times. It's going to be really long. Not too long. We'll read a little bit of it, and I'll put the link in the chats if you guys want to read the entire article. It says a new study has shown that believing in the supernatural can provide comfort for people who are struggling. Well, certainly. I mean, a belief in an afterlife, for instance, is comforting when you've lost a loved one. It's a very comforting thing. Now, I don't think it's just a belief. I think it's a matter of fact. But if you look at it from just a psychological point of view, would you like to feel that whatever was the person that you loved was just erased? It's just no more. It was just taken out of the book of knowledge and fact and their experience. Everything about them is just switched off. Or is it more comforting to think, look, they had a hard life, and by God, that one's actually outside. But they had a hard life, and now they're relaxing and in a state of bliss and comfort. So I think it's obvious why that would be beneficial to think that way, and I think that's certainly many of us have had experiences to substantiate that belief as well. So. Anyway, let's have a look at the article. Let's see. Andrew Denovan, Ken Drinkwater. Guy's name is Ken Drinkwater. That's pretty straightforward. And Neil Dagnall. Paranormal beliefs create a sense of control, predictability, and comfort in uncertain times, according to academic studies. But that doesn't explain why some people find them more appealing than others. Though recent studies are starting to offer explanations about why some people feel so drawn to the paranormal. Paranormal beliefs are convictions in notions beyond what mainstream science can explain. Like ghosts or psychic abilities, surveys now show that a large number of people in the US and the UK, between about 1/3 and 50%, hold these beliefs. Good, that means the market's bigger for the portal. Our recent study found that people who feel powerless or uncertain are more likely to believe in the supernatural. What? So that makes it sound like a stupid thing. Like, oh, well, they only believe that because they're powerless and uncertain. It's not just the only reason people believe in that. It's the continuation of what we are. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. That's, it's not because I feel powerless and helpless that I believe that. I just think it's kind of a fundamental belief. It can show what happens to the physicality of the body following our imminent death, but we can't show what happens to the conscious part of our body. And that's the part of us. So anyway, this is probably because of the way our brains process uncertainty when faced with events we cannot control. Our minds look for patterns and explanations. Sure they do. But that's regarding everything. Paranormal beliefs create structured stories that make random events seem intentional. For example, astrology connects planetary movements to personal experiences, giving believers a way to understand their lives. People put their faith in conspiracy theories for similar reasons. Well, no, people put their faith in conspiracy theories because it's clear that there's conspiracies going on. That's whatever's happening in the world doesn't make much sense a lot of times, and there's got to be other motivations. So I don't think that's I don't like the tone of this article already, because it's already making it seem like, well, these poor fish swimming aimlessly in the pond, in the brook, and boy, are they bouncing off of rocks. What a bunch of clowns. But I mean, we are logical beings, and we are fundamentally looking to expand and improve and to find explanation for the world around us. That's not a shortcoming. That's not a weakness or a coping mechanism. That's why we continue to progress and expand and grow and develop ourselves, is because we're driven by a need to understand. And it's fundamentally built in to our psyche. It's not just something that, well, why are we so screwed? I don't know. Let's create belief to help cope with that. It's just obviously this is written from a very clinical perspective without any regard for the potential spirituality and spiritual awareness. So the perception gives life a sense of purpose and meaning. Stories about ghosts and communication with dead people, the dead, can help people feel connected to lost loved ones. In this way, the supernatural thinking helps people cope with fears about the unknown. Yeah, they're making it seem like it's a foolish, superstitious, archaic coping mechanism, and it's not. I mean, it's just, it's funny how when you start to investigate, and that's where science, I think, is largely flawed, is that everybody's starting with their own personal lens. And to be truly scientific, you have to start with no biases whatsoever. You have to start with no inclination towards what is truth and what isn't. You would have to be completely and totally objective as you explore these concepts. You can't come into it with, well, I don't believe with God, I don't believe there is a God, and I don't believe there's all this other hooey, and I'm going to try to clinically explain it in ways that reinforce my own beliefs. And you can't dismiss billions of people having these belief systems as these archaic coping mechanisms and rudimentary attempts to try to find meaning in a very volatile world. That's not how you start. So that's my feeling about this so far. I'm not going to read anymore, but I'll certainly put the link out there. And it's not that there can be no merit in what they're saying, but they're already starting with a very clear bias, the way they're coming at it already, like making it seem senseless and foolish. And it's certainly not. If it gives people meaning and gives them courage and gives them purpose and scope in continuing on, then it's a powerful thing. Whether you believe it's true or not, it's not where people have gone sideways. It's where they're going, they're finding purpose and meaning and strength in these things, which helps them to continue. And I think that most of us in here would believe that it's not just belief, that there's fact behind this. But it's not like we're going to get there in this article. So I'll copy the link, put it in the chats if anybody wants to read more of it. And again, I'm not saying that they can't believe however they're believing and they can't write about however they're writing, but to me it seems really clear that they're coming at it with an established bias, and they're trying to substantiate their worldview in a clinical manner. And it's nothing new for the realm of science in a lot of cases, but there's a lot of people of faith and in the scientific communities as well. But that's certainly not often the basis of their work, unfortunately. So there you go. That's that one. I think, where are we at? 46. Yeah, I think we'll probably call that the quits for the news tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And so let me close that so I don't try to reread it another night, because I'll be back tomorrow night as well, and we'll do another news segment, providing I can find 2 more articles. Cato Colton says, there are a lot of professionals by self-declaration. The more you experience, the less you know. Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. Yeah. Are you a professional? Absolutely. Just ask me. I know exactly what I'm talking about. So I think nothing new under the sun. Yeah, exactly. Mike Bryan over in Facebook. Very cool. Very cool. All right. So that's the news. Hopefully you found some merit in this, and let's get to the rest of the show where we're going to start digging into some haunted hospital stories. Nurses working the night shift having creepy experiences. I mean, what more likely haunted experiences are there than in hospitals? All right, let's get back to it. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, very cool, very cool. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to know I'm so thrilled you all are here. Thank you so much for being here, and good to see you, Colton, man. That's awesome. That's really awesome. I sent you a message a while back, so I don't know if it's still in your boxes somewhere, but yeah, I'd love to chat with you. If you wouldn't mind sometime, that'd be great. But no pressure. Just up to you, brother. How you doing, Poncho? Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Poncho Zorch is here. Who else? Anybody else come in? All right. It looks like that's what. Oh, Linda's here. How you doing, Linda? Good to see you. All right. So we're going to dive into some stories that we started the last show on Wednesday, and we're going to dive back into them. This is a thought catalog article. I almost said cardicle. What the hell's a cardicle? A thought catalog article. We're on number 6, but let me get to the top. This is called 49 Real Nurses Share the Terrifying Hospital Ghost Stories That Scared Them to Death. Well, clearly not quite to death, but scared them, if it could be fair. If it scared them to death, they would be the ghost story. This was written by Eric Redding, Redding, and it was last updated 3 years ago on September 27th, 2022. But that's why I like ghost stories. They're always evergreen. Like, you can read ghost stories from the 1600s, and while the language is a little challenging, they're still just as relevant as they were then. Like, you can't if you wrote an article about, let's say, what would it be? The Apple IIe personal computers. Well, that would be a very dated article. It's just not relevant after the technology emerges. But that's what I love about the paranormal, supernatural, Fortean topics, is all these stories are just as relevant today as they were whenever they might have happened, whether it was yesterday or decades or even centuries ago. So, all right, we're going to get to this. This is an incredible article so far, and we're going to dive into a bit more of it. I hope I turned off the last thing. Yep, there we go. All right, so we're going to do 2 places at once is this segment of the article. And a lot of times these articles are Reddit scrapes where the authors go out and they farm, comments from Reddit or other online threads and forums. Now, if there's ever a citation of where it comes from, I'll be happy to share it. But this article doesn't seem to have any of those, so I'm just sharing it as it appears in the article. So number 6. In 2 places at once. I used to work in a state institute for developmentally disabled. Okay. Yeah, I got you, Colton. No worries. Taking a sabbatical. I got you. All right, buddy. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'd love to discuss with you when you get a chance. I used to work in a state institute for developmentally disabled. We were temp relocated to another building for remodeling of our building. Well, anyway, I was working one night, second shift, and we had a locked Pika unit. And I saw one of the residents walking down the hall. Not sure what a Pika unit is, so I apologize. I can't explain everything I'm reading here, but it sounds interesting. Whatever the Pika unit is, sounds interesting. We had a locked Pika unit, and I saw one of the residents walking down the hall. Very distinct gait, and very distinct yellow T-shirt with a happy face on it. Well, I went into the ward to let staff know that they had an escapee. And this was a serious situation because this particular resident, Larry, would ingest absolutely anything, from clothing to pens to belts to a bird's head. Oh no. Larry needs some Pepto-Bismol. Literally anything. And he was also very reluctant to go back into his home ward. Hence why I didn't try to bring him back myself. He needed 2 escorts. When we got back into the hall less than 15 seconds later, Larry was gone. We searched the entire building, outside, downstairs, all the wards. He was nowhere to be found. The whole search lasted less than 10 minutes because I had all extra staff looking for him. Well, I was just about to call the house supervisor to let him know that we lost someone when out of the bathroom walks Larry with one of the staff. He'd been getting his bath in the bathroom for the last 30 minutes or so. Kind of freaky, I absolutely without a doubt saw Larry in the hallway. I never would have short-staffed the wards like I did if I hadn't seen him. Well, like I said, very distinct gait, look, clothing. I took a lot of razzing that night, and they all thought that I was crazy. Anyway, come to find out the next day, after the story goes around that I'm crazy, Larry had an identical twin brother who died in that building 10 years previously. Ooh. So is it the twin still hanging around? Or, the other part that comes to mind is the whole doppelganger thing. And not that it maybe doppelganger isn't the right word, but a mimic. Like there is certainly the doppelganger phenomena where people will see a person that they know and are very familiar with, and then go one direction and find the person in a whole different part of the house and could never have been the other one. And it makes me think that there's mimics. There's maybe spirits sometimes appear as someone you know for whatever reasons, or is it potentially a time slip of some sort where you're catching an impression of somebody either from like the past or the future, sometime relevant to your own, or maybe even long distance. But it's hard to say if this was actually the twin, or was this just a hiccup of time somewhere. I don't know. It's very distinctly talking about that yellow T-shirt with the smiley face, though. And I don't know if Larry always wore that shirt, or if his twin brother did, or did they have matching shirts? I don't know. There's a lot of questions, but it's an interesting story, and it doesn't surprise me again. So let's go to number 7, the grandchild. We had a black girl about 10 in ICU that was severely injured in a car accident. Oh, it's so sad. Lots of brain damage, and she didn't die there, but was moved to another facility after weeks and weeks. Well, after that, I know of 3 older black males in their 50s that, if they were even mildly sedated, would ask about the little black girl with the ribbon in her hair who was sitting at the foot of their beds. One guy said she asked me how I was doing and then got up and walked that way while he was pointing towards the second floor window. He paused, a wide-eyed look came over his face, and then he said, "But I guess she couldn't have left the room that way, huh?" Personally, I think she was taking care of grandfatherly figures. Aw, I mean, that's kind of sweet, right? Or creepy. I don't know. It depends on your take, really. Depends on your take. I mean, is that a creepy thing, or is that kind of cute and sweet, or benevolent, malevolent? I don't know. You be the judge. I'm just reading the stories. Let's go to number 8, the dark room. I worked in an intensive care unit where a prisoner convicted of murder had died in the ICU, and nobody would put a patient in that room after because the air was just too heavy and the room was too spooky and dark. It was so bad that the hospital eventually closed down the room and knocked out a wall to make it a separate entrance into the unit because nurses would refuse to put patients in the room, even if it was the last available bed. They'd triage out a patient before they'd trust putting a patient in that bed. I don't know if any of you guys have ever been or entered a space. That heaviness is so palpable. I'm trying to get my tongue to work. Sitting right here, I guess, right next to me. I don't know. And again, I don't mean to pretend that the ghost radar is absolutely accurate. That's a spirit. But it does pick up electromagnetic variables. And could they be? Maybe. But I think it's kind of fun to have the ghost radar on just to see what pops up during the shows. So think of it what you will. I'm not trying to sell it that there's always spirits running through here, but maybe there is. Yeah, but there's some haunted places that are like you're walking into an energy soup. Like it's thick, it's heavy, and you can feel that presence. And if you ever investigated, you know what I'm saying. If you haven't, I think you probably have heard it referenced many times as you check out shows that deal with investigating. It's like some places you go and it's like, oh no. So anyway, yeah, I think that's good advice. If there's, I wouldn't put a patient in a room like that. Like, yeah, good luck. All right, let's go to 9, Nurse Betty. I was working in the NICU when we had a threat of a tornado. Well, some nurses got pulled to go to a sister hospital in town to assist in the disaster plan. And when all was over, one of the nurses returned with this story. She was assisting the nurses in giving some meds before pulling all into the hallways. Every patient she went to said they already had their meds from that nice nurse in the white uniform and hat. And she realized after she left that it's been a while since a nurse has worn a hat. That story revealed the urban legend of Nurse Betty. The story goes that she had an affair with a married doctor, became pregnant, and then agreed to allow him to perform an abortion on her in the second floor OR. And she died and he went to jail. Well, she never left the hospital and was seen frequently. The local newspaper would do an article of her every year around Halloween on her sightings. The hospital's since been replaced with college dorms. Oof. I wonder if any students have seen her. Well, I don't think you got to worry about getting your meds when you're going to school. Jeez. It's interesting because I think it's, what is the place? Where the nurse, oh my God, I can't believe I'm just drawing a blank. Again, names. This is my personal, Penhurst. Penhurst was one that I was looking for. Penhurst has a story very similar to that. Now, is it verifiable? I don't know. Or is this perhaps an egregore? The idea that if enough people believe in a legend, that it maybe becomes real. Maybe it becomes manifest because people believe that really happened. This may have happened. Maybe it was a much more common experience, but that's very, very similar to the nurse story in Penhurst, who the lady is believed to have been captured on photos and stuff. So is it possible that both of those stories are true? Sure. I don't think it's any real newsflash that maybe some doctors were playing with some nurses all over the place and vice versa. But, and maybe some of them ended in unwanted pregnancies, and maybe some of those unwanted pregnancies ended in tragedy. I don't know. But interesting. You be the judge, but it is very similar to the nurse story from Penhurst. So believe what you will. Number 10, Rocking Mary. I don't think she's a musician. I don't think that's where this story's going. The story of Rocking Mary. We closed room 12 in our MICU. What is MICU? I know intensive care unit is ICU, but what does M stand for? Anybody help me out? Pancho Zorch said, I'd just be happy if the nurses where I work didn't have green, purple, pink or rainbow colored hair and rings in their noses. Well, I don't know if it matters. As long as they're good at their job, but up to you. I don't know what these people are like, though. Certainly some people can be a handful no matter what they look like, but maybe there's a theme with this, Pancho. I don't mean to insert myself into your experience, but anyway, as long as they're good nurses, yeah, that's what's most important. All right, here we go. Rockin' Mary. The story of Rocking Mary. We closed room 12 in our MICU because it was just about every patient that has been there since Mary died complains of seeing a woman wearing a white habit rocking back and forth by their bedside. Apparently, this nun never makes eye contact, just stares outside the window, which happens to be on the patient left side over their head. The window overlooks the hospital cemetery where nuns that have died were buried. Mary was a nun that died of a car accident outside the hospital back in the 50s. She was only about 30 years old, and all patients describe her as a young woman, and we all thought that it was the sundown syndrome. Well, anyway, since then, room 12 became our storage room where no one goes in by themselves unless it's absolutely critical. The thing with that is if people are seeing that could very well be residual because she's not making eye contact. She's not actually interacting. She just appears and people are able to see her. So it could just be a residual imprint that was left behind. But again, I'm not there. I didn't investigate it. I haven't looked at it at all. And it's possible that she's just, I don't know, maybe just reminding people of a past. I don't know. I'm just trying to find reason for it, but it could just be residual. Oh, okay. Phil Funk says medical intensive care unit. Oh, okay. What other kinds of intensive care is there? I guess there's pediatric intensive care. So maybe that would be PICU. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Phil. I appreciate that. And thank you, Pancho. I appreciate that as well. I see you echoed that same thing or said it first. Either way, I appreciate you guys helping me understand this stuff. Number 11, the lingering spirit. We had a patient, chronic CHFer. What does that mean? CHFer. I don't know what that means. Anyway, always on the call button, hated being on fluid restrictions. You know the type, the nurses have to take turns during the shift answering the call button so the primary can actually do their work. Well, and this happens this was a frequent flyer because he was very chronic. Okay. Maybe that's what CH stands for. Very borderline, and the hospital is the only place he wouldn't fluid overload. I work 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., and he died about 8 p.m. Oh, the look on his face like, how could you have let me die? Like it was our fault. Anyway, family came and gone by 9 p.m. Funeral home gone by 9:30. At about 10 p.m., the call button starts going off. I was there. Call button going off every 5 minutes. One of the nurses was a very spiritual girl. About 2 a.m., after like 4 hours of this, Nurse Mary snaps, "Enough!" She walks down to the room and practically screams into an empty room. "Mr. X, you have died. You can't be in here bothering us anymore. Move along. In the name of Jesus, I'm exorcising you from this plane of existence. Go to the light and be happy." And I kid you not, the call button stopped going off then and there. Yeah, she's like, oh, congestive heart failure. Okay. Gotcha, Cecil Webb. Thank you. Thank you. See, you guys are awesome. You're teaching me stuff all the time. So that was it. She just laid down the law and he went, oops, okay, I guess I'm done. Go to the light. Go to the light. Number 12, the lonely ghost. Not a spooky story, but a lonely ghost. One of the rooms, if it was being used regularly, fine, no problem. But since it was a room at the end of the hall, it was used for storage lots of times. We're seeing that theme a lot. You ever see a room in a hospital being used as storage? I think you'll know why. If a couple of weeks went by and there were no patients' activity in the room, the call light would start going off 4 to 5 times a shift. But if you went into the room and turned on the TV, the call light wouldn't go off anymore. So needless to say, when the room was being used for storage, the TV was always on with the volume down low. Oh, that's bizarre. Why not? If I was stuck in a space and there was a TV there, I'd be like, yeah, turn that on, will you? I'm just staring at the walls here. Interesting. Just looking at the chat. Yeah, Werewolf, thank you. Appreciate that as well. I like that you guys can answer some of these questions. All right. The Old Nun, number 13. Well, like most very old hospitals, at one time our hospital was run by nuns. One particular unit had been converted into a sleep study lab area for outpatient tests. Well, one shift in the middle of the night, I was watching the video monitor and 5 patients simultaneously began removing their monitoring equipment. Well, I went into the first room to ask what was going on, and the patient said that old nurse with the cap told her the study was over and that she could leave. All the patients reported the same story. Wow, how's that? That was weird. Maybe she just wanted these people gone. Get out of here. Get out of here. Maybe she just stoned Brent. Could be. Enough is enough. Absolutely, John. All right, here we go. Number 14. It was identical. I work in a coronary care unit with mostly post-heart attack patients. My charge nurse told us this story. I'm not sure if she's just messing with us, but she sounded serious. So our unit was empty. We consolidated our last couple of patients into the ICU because we had low patient, PT is patient, right? Census. So meaning they didn't have a lot of patients. Okay. My charge nurse was over in the CCU, I think that's critical care unit, at the nurses station doing something on the computer. All of our rooms were empty. She heard a bedside monitoring alarm, so she went into the room where the noise was coming from, and there was an EKG strip coming out of the bedside printer, which we never use. And it was a long continuing strip of clear VTAC. And she said she had just coded someone there the week before who had been in VT. Creepy as hell. That's not the word they use, but that's the word I'm using. Too long to download or read. Ghost in patient room printed her last VTAC rhythm strip out of her bedside monitor 1 week post-death. Yikes. All right, we're going to read 15 here. Then maybe we'll start on some cryptids because we got some good cryptid stories to get to. But these are some pretty good hospital stories. And I think, again, hospitals are one of those places. It's not surprising at all that they could have activity. Let me put more of me on the screen. There we go. A little more of me, a little less of my microphone. There we go. A little more of me. More of me now. More of me now. It's an ego thing. All right, there are places in the hospital that people refuse to go alone. That doesn't surprise me at all. I do interfacility transfers as an EMT, so I get to see all the skilled facilities and hospitals in the state. 2 places give me the hair-raising, just bad negative juju creeps. An abandoned school of the feeble-minded and the state's prison mental health facility that used to be a huge tuberculosis ward when there were massive outbreaks back in the day. A third creepy place is the old birthing hospital that got turned into a long-term care facility. The top floor is mostly padlocked off. Jokingly, I asked a nurse on the elevator if the building was haunted, and she matter-of-factly just said, yeah. little kid shapes on the floor, and residents report older women in dresses. And she said there were areas of the building that she refused to go without another person. There you go. There you go. So these have been some haunted hospital stories. The Unknown says, I'm not sure if I told you guys what happened last week about a friend that passed, but before she passed, she told my cousin that she could see her mother that passed 1 year before. Yeah, that's a pretty common thing, Unknown, that people that are nearing that transition suddenly become aware. Like maybe an awareness comes open for them. Maybe it's because they're so close to transitioning to the spirits that they become aware, like super aware of that, and it gets turned on or released in some, I don't know how that works necessarily, but that doesn't surprise me. There's many stories of people being in their deathbed, just hanging on by a thread and talking with maybe deceased husbands from ages ago, or brothers and sisters that had preceded them in death, mothers and fathers, etc. Even, angels, religious figures. There's a lot of those stories, and I think that there's absolutely merit to that. That's, when you're close to going. There's an old cautionary tale that's if you start seeing ghosts a lot, that might not be a good thing, because it's not necessarily a bad thing, but some people believe that could be an indicator that maybe your time has grown short. And I don't know what to think about that. I just, I certainly wouldn't think that I was maybe on death's door if I started seeing ghosts. I would just think that maybe something was awakened in me. I don't know. I wouldn't want to think about that, I guess. Could be, though. Could be. Accent. I have to say, haunted hospitals in a Boston accent every time. It's all right when you're in Boston. You got to park the car. Steve Biff Saunders. Hey, brother. Good to see you over on Facebook. Thanks for stopping in, man. Tattoo Alley. I never ignore spirits. What is that in reference to? I don't know what you guys are talking about here. I'm going to try to look, though. I do talk to spirits, so maybe that's why I get silence when I asked him to do so. Not sure what you asked. I guess I'm trying to poke my nose. Not trying to pick my nose. I'm trying to poke my nose into what you guys are talking about, but I can't scroll all the way back and catch up. So, interestingly enough, refreshing water. All right, so we're going to dive into some cryptids, some creatures. So if you like you some Bigfoot, you like some Dogman, Skinwalkers, etc., then you're probably going to like this segment, because I like to call it the Cryptid Corner. All right, we're going to read, I think, one from Sasquatch Chronicles, and then we'll head over to Phantoms and Monsters. I hope I got enough from Phantoms and Monsters pulled up, but anyway, let's do this. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Cryptid Corner. That's funny. There's an old saying. The werewolf says, never to let someone else pick your nose. There's an old saying. You can pick your nose and you can pick your friends, but you can't wipe your friends on a Kleenex. I don't know. It's funny in my head every time I hear that. There you go. The older you get, the time gets shorter. That's for sure, John. I'm telling you. It's time for cryptids. Hunting wabbits into cryptid verse. Here we go. This is the Cryptid Corner, ladies and gentlemen, where we dive into stories and encounter stories with, cryptids. Cryptozoological creatures are those creatures that have not been established by biologists or scientists, but that many people encounter seeing. And this deals with Bigfoot, Dogman, pale crawlers, little diminutive humanoids, etc., etc., even like Loch Ness Monster and more. So I certainly believe cryptids are out there, that people are running into something very real. But as of now, they've not been substantiated. So they're still, in a lot of people's eyes, the realm of fanciful thinking and folklore. But this is definitely, something's out there. Falcor 22, Atreyu. Your name's Falcor and you said Atreyu. Never ending story all over the place over in Twitch. There you go. Thanks for coming in, Falcor, checking out the show. Falcor 22, good to see you. Make sure to follow the show. We do these live shows, ladies and gentlemen, every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday on 5 different platforms, whether it's YouTube, Rumble, Facebook Live, X, Twitter, and Twitch. So that's where you get it. Now we are the disclosure. You're right, SoCal. It's certainly, with the cryptids, there's not a lot of established sciences and biologists that are taking up that mantle. And I was talking with Dave about this last night on Spaced Out Radio. It's like, we're the ones that are going to figure it out. We're the ones that are going to substantiate this, because we're the only ones taking up the mantle. And I don't mean me personally, but I mean people like me. Thank you, Bogart says, hit the like button. Please, I'd love for you to like the streams. Help validate my existence. So it will be everyday people that will probably end up providing that definitive evidence or proof. How long? Who knows? Again, we can't know the precise nature of these things. If there is supernatural elements to them, if there isn't, if there's both, or some of them can, some of them can't, I don't know. There's so many ideas and theories out there right now that it's kind of a stew of possibilities, if you will. Using a metaphor, food metaphor. Big Bird says, I went squatching the other day, used my selfie stick. First time, and got lots of vid. Uploaded next day to find one pic that turned out to be a 3-second vid of the ground. Grr, I was irked. It's okay. I mean, you're just starting. Give yourself some time. My area was My area was AAI or AL? What the hell did you write there? Changed with new and different structures. The TP was much smaller and stuff was missing. All right. Well, there you go. Tattoo Alley. So maybe it wasn't a selfie stick. Maybe you brought a dipstick. Yeah. I don't think they will. You're not just starting. Okay. Well, I just thought you said, oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Well, then I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I was trying to help you out there. Yeah, getting some footage of the ground, unless there's tracks there, probably isn't what you're doing. Isn't what you're going for. But anyway, good luck. I hope you find something incredible. If you do, bring it to the portal. Love to show everybody what you've seen. If you've seen stuff already, send me images. We can certainly share them on the shows. I'm not opposed to that. You know, as long as evidence looks like evidence. I don't want a bunch of blobby squatch things or a lot of, pictures of shrubs and bushes and trying to find squatch heads in that. But if it's pretty good evidence, I'd love to show everybody what you've been doing. All right. This is the Cryptid Corner. We're going to start out at SasquatchChronicles.com. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Wes Germer's site, the companion site to the Sasquatch Chronicles podcast. And Wes has done a hell of a job on this. He's constantly updating it as well. Both he and Lon are always updating their sites and adding more content. So if you're not checking out Sasquatch Chronicles, especially the blog, you're missing out on a lot of stuff that is very relevant and interesting. And sometimes it's not always Sasquatch related, but it's always fascinating and interesting. So I'm sure you're going to love it and check it out, support it. And if you want to become a member of Sasquatch Chronicles, that's where you do it. You can be a member and get extra shows every week, or an extra show every week. But anyway, let's get to this. This is the first story of the night of the Cryptid Corner. This one's from April 13th. Large rock throwing incident, Adirondack Park. A listener writes, I found your podcast recently, and for the last few years, I've been attempting to speak to someone, or at least report an experience that happened to me and 3 other friends on November 10th of 2020 in Franklin County, New York, in the Adirondack Park, specifically on the shore of Loon Lake. This event terrified all of us, and to this day, we don't have clear answers. Sorry, something floating around my mouth. While I didn't initially connect this experience with Bigfoot, after searching for explanations, I began finding these stories so similar to what we experienced that I eventually considered as a possibility. A few months after it happened, I did try to report this to the BFRO, Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, Matt Moneymaker's site, a site that had similar stories, but I didn't get any follow-up. But I did see another report posted there of a sighting 3 years after our experience in the same vicinity and along the same tract of power lines that traveled by Loon Lake. Anyway, here's my story. In November 10th of 2020, I went to a friend's camp in Loon Lake with 2 others. There were 4 of us total. And we're all teachers. We had the following day off from school. Being Veterans Day, we had decided to have a fire and enjoy the unseasonably warm weather. My friend's camp was at the end of a dead-end road that runs up alongside some power lines. And we'd started a fire at his camp, and we were just getting situated, putting stuff away and gathering firewood when we heard some eerie, loud, and unfamiliar calls coming from the direction of the power lines. Well, this was probably right around dusk. It was almost like a scream and a howl at the same time. Well, one friend thought maybe it was a strange bird cry, but didn't sound familiar to any of us and was enough to make us all stop and say, "What the hell was that?" We soon moved on and eventually thought we would take the 4-wheelers down to the lakeside. And this would now be probably around 8:30 or 9 p.m. The lake's only about a third of a mile from his camp, so it was a quick ride. And we sat down on the shoreline on some Adirondack chairs, and it was a still, warm night. We didn't have any fire by the lakeside, so it was pretty dark, but the stars were clear. And while my friends were talking, I suddenly began to hear this very low-pitched humming or vibration that was so subtle, it was almost imperceptible. And I was sitting back towards the stone wall that used to be part of an old hotel that had burned down long ago. The hill behind the stone wall had had a couple of empty camps on top of it, and all the camps around us were empty, being that this was the off-season. This place is typically a very quiet area, and at night we seemed to be the only people at all who were even in this area. There were no boats on the lake or fires around it, no lights on in any of the camps. It was pretty much desolate. And I'm trying to figure out what this humming noise is, and it's kind of driving me crazy while my friends are just talking just a few feet in front of me. And all of a sudden, all of us were surprised by an enormous plunging sound about 150 feet out in the lake to our left. There were no boats on the lake, no docks out. Whatever made this sound did not come out of the water, but it was clearly thrown into it from the shore. It sounded like an enormous person did a cannonball. It wasn't the sound of a small rock, but an epic kerplunge. Well, this alone freaked us out, being that we couldn't figure out how anybody could throw something that large, that far out into the lake. Well, we debated about what it might be. My friends, who are avid hunters and fishermen, said immediately that there are no fish in that lake that would sound like a 250-pound man jumping into the water. And they also immediately ruled out a beaver with how distinct the sound was. Then, about 2 minutes after the first, while we were still debating what it was, a second huge plunge. But this time, it was landing about 50 feet offshore, much closer. Well, at this point, we're all of us feeling watched and a sense of dread that I just can't describe. Whatever is throwing these things seems to be watching and waiting to see what we will do, and purposely throwing them closer. And there's no noise in between these huge objects landing in the water. Well, not long after the second, a third splash startled us, and this time it's right basically offshore, maybe 10 feet in front of us. At that point, all of us got up and without even discussing it, just booked it towards the four-wheelers. It was pitch black, and I've never felt so scared waiting for my friend to find the key so we could just ride back to camp. I went back the next day to the shoreline, but I didn't see anything notable. I just know that whatever was throwing those rocks was not a person. They were far too loud and huge based on the distance and the sound. We all agreed that it also felt very purposeful and done by something more powerful than us. We felt it, whatever it was waiting, watching, and sending us the signal to get out of there. This experience, along with the strange calls and low-pitched humming, all added up for a very peculiar evening. Well, that's our weird experience. I know you get many, and it may take you time to get to this one, but I just wanted to share it. Phil says it was me jumping in the water. That's the thing with these experiences, though. And I think that it's incredibly psychological. The amount of pressure that they can apply to get you to get out of an area. Oftentimes it starts small, pebbles, little pebbles. Where the hell are those coming from? What's throwing pebbles? And you go through inevitably, every story, they go through the laundry list. It's like, well, it's not squirrels. They're not throwing pebbles. Is it something falling out of a tree? Well, there's no trees above us. Where is this coming from? And then it progresses. Sometimes it's footsteps. Sometimes it's maybe bigger things getting thrown. Pine cones, things like that, sticks, larger rocks. And they seem to be incredibly accurate with their aim. Like they can choose to hit or they can choose to miss. And thank God they choose to miss, because I'm pretty sure that whatever these things are, they probably utilize throwing as part of their manner of hunting. Like that, I think they could probably pick up a good-sized rock and knock the head off a turkey, like so accurate. And so they could hit people if they wanted. They just don't want to. They're just trying to apply pressure to get people to leave. It's incredibly strategic. And that to me really denotes intelligence. It's not just random. They want people to move out of an area. And so they apply this pressure. And they are tenacious. Like if they start harassing someone or a group of people, they will continue until their needs are met, until you've moved out. Now, why would they do that? Well, I mean, there's always the possibility it could be just entertainment for them. Let's watch what the bald monkeys do. Or maybe they have a family group in the area and they just need people to get out of there so they can feed everybody. Like maybe they're foraging there. That's part of their cycle, their circuit, if you will. And suddenly there's people there. Well, they can't really forage then. They can't move freely and collect what they might need. So they got to get people out of there. And that wouldn't surprise me at all. I think that's probably mostly their motivation. It's probably because I think that they probably have a pretty robust range that they travel, but it's very methodical. Like they go to certain places at certain times because they're expecting something to be happening there that's going to help them meet their needs. I think it's incredibly formulated and probably I don't know that they migrate, quote unquote migrate. They might, but I think it's probably more likely that they just have a pretty robust range, and they do this circuit throughout the year and hit the spots that are going to meet their needs. Again, this is a potentially a very large creature. It's going to have a huge caloric intake need. Like, it's going to have to sustain itself, kind of on par with a grizzly bear. And grizzly bear ranges, I think, are potentially like a couple 100 miles. So skin apes, Mike Prine says, yeah. So, well, I think that's us. We're the skin apes, and they're the hairy ones. But yeah. So I think it's very, very much an intelligent thing, but they have such precision with it, and they are so good at cranking up the pressure, crank it up, crank it up, crank it up. They don't let people get comfortable. Like, even if people are like, well, let's just go to sleep and we'll take a look at it in the morning. Well, they'll spend all night walking around tents and just cranking up that pressure so nobody can get comfortable. You're always on edge. You're always agitated because something's going on around you, and you can't figure out A, what it is for sure, and B, what does it mean? Are you on the food chain? Are you going to get hurt? Is it possible? Hell yeah, it's possible. So I just find these stories incredibly fascinating, and this is one of those takeaways that I think are really important, because we don't have much to go on other than these anecdotal evidence stories, but they're powerful. Phil Funk says, Brent, do you think it could be that they have young and it's a protective tactic? Sure, absolutely. In fact, I would think that would probably be one of their biggest motivators, is that if it's a family group and they have young ones, well, young ones, they can't drag young ones around as robustly. They got to do everything very purposeful in order to protect their young and to obviously meet the needs of their young. And that probably has a big part of why they do this circuit is, they need to have the calories. Like, if the young are potentially breastfeeding, well, the mother is going to need to have enough caloric intake to be able to pass on to the baby and also to sustain herself. So, I mean, with a lot of breastfeeding or nursing mothers, if they aren't getting their caloric needs met, the breast milk will continue to pass on the nutrients the child needs, but the mother will start to suffer because there's not enough, but her body will surrender all of that for the needs of the baby. So yeah, I think it's very much that, Phil. I think you're absolutely right. You light a fire, that hairy man is going to hunt you down and lob a few rocks in your general direction. Yeah, hides about 500 yards away, giggling behind a tree, Snuffy says. And it says, when the hairy man walks, it's kind of like time displacement. His legs seem to stretch further, and he glides a mile in a few seconds. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, that's certainly, anything is possible. Again, we know almost nothing. So we have a lot of ideas and theories, and that could be true, Snuffy. I don't know. If there's other anomalies at work here where they're, utilizing a transdimensional thing, I can't say I can understand that. I can't conceptualize that or process it. I can't. I don't know what to do with that, but I certainly know the claims, and I've talked to witnesses that have seen these supernatural things happen in front of their eyes. At least they claim that. And who am I to say, no, that's not what you saw. That never happened. I can't. So I don't know. It's very interesting stuff, but I think it's incredibly fascinating, and it really speaks to what are these things capable of? How intelligent are they? And they know how to crank our buttons until we go. And the dangerous part is if we don't go, and they've been cranking it up. Well, at some point, it's going to reach a breaking point. Now, maybe that breaking point is them just giving up and going to another area in hopes that they'll be okay. Or maybe the breaking point is you. You're what needs to break. There's no question that if these things wanted people dead, they would be dead. Hi, Sunshine Sharon. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in over in Rumble. Great to see you. But yeah, it's fascinating. Hi, Ruthie. Good to see you. Here, it's always better late than never. It's better early than never, or better early than late, but better late than never. So yeah, it's fascinating. That's why they come up to my house trick or treating, because I leave all the good stuff for them. Lunatic Fringe says, I'm behind. I started from the beginning late. Well, at some point, Lunatic, you'll run into my comment saying, how you doing? Good to see you. So stick it out. Don't give up. Very interesting stuff, though. Again, that's why I love these kind of reports. Is again, it establishes a consistency of behavior, and these behaviors are so consistent, and so we can extrapolate patterns. We can extrapolate possible motivations, possible thinking, and we can look at how things progress and use it to understand a little more. I mean, right now, this story right there is the best evidence we have. Now, I know there's tracks and there's hair samples and things like that. There's potential film and video, but those are all just moments, and they capture something. Again, you have to substantiate all of them, and they require a lot of testing. But this kind of stuff, this is where we can look at what was going on. What was the action the people were making? What triggered these interactions, and what could they be thinking of? What could be their motivations? And I think we stand to learn a lot by paying attention to these stories, because that's the only consistent thing we have is people's experience. So, very cool. All right, we're going to go on now, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to start over at, let me close this so I don't try to reread it. Then we're going to go over to phantomsandmonsters.com, ladies and gentlemen. This is Lon Stricker's site. Again, he streamed tonight. So if next Friday you're sitting around waiting for the portal, start your night over on Lon's show. Listen to him. And it's a fascinating show. He does a great job. Lon has literally been a pillar of this community for decades, and he does a hell of a job. His site is so well kept up and current, and you can learn a lot about what he's doing, what people he's affiliated with are doing, research efforts they have, as well as his published works and his podcast, which is also a YouTube channel. It's Phantoms and Monsters Radio. So watch Lon, go get subscribed, give him your love. You have been renamed by my phone. What is my new name? What's my new name, Ruthie? I hope it's a good name. Refreshing water. All right, let's get to the Phantoms and Monsters. These are more U.S. military personnel recall their Sasquatch sightings and encounters. We do end up covering a lot of Sasquatch, and that's fine. Hello, Sharon Sunshine. So you're over on Rumble and in YouTube. Great to see you both places. Great to see you wherever you pop in. Wizard Moon, I don't know if I said hi to you before, but I'm saying it again because I see you there. I see you. All right, here we go. Let's get into this. This is some Sasquatch by the military. A man named Mark forwarded a first-hand account of an encounter with Bigfoot near Fort Lewis, Washington in 1989. A friend of his had been stationed at the Army base. Well, he and his platoon were practicing a recon mission along the Nisqually River, a few miles from the fort. Ooh, excuse me, water burp. The commanding officer ordered one of the soldiers to swim across the river and scope out what was happening on the other side. Well, the soldier did as he was told and swam across the river, and he climbed up the steep, muddy embankment on the other side and disappeared into the forest. Well, the rest of the platoon waited for a few minutes and then heard the soldier scream. Seconds later, he reappeared into view, flying down the embankment with a terrified look on his face. He was in hysterics as he crossed the river. When he was safely on the other side, he collapsed into the ground and told his platoon he had inadvertently run into a Bigfoot on the other side. Caught off guard, the creature freaked out and took off running in the opposite direction. And as he recounted what had happened, the other soldiers could unmistakably hear the sounds of something large and heavy barreling through the trees and foliage on the other side. Mark's friend informed him that the soldier who had run into the creature left the Army not long after. He moved to Oregon and became involved with the Bigfoot investigations there. The encounter changed his life. I wonder what that was like. What did he run into it? I want to know more. What did he experience? So, and then the article continues. I'd previously posted an account of a possible Sasquatch incident near the same military installation. I later received several BFRO links from a reader, Joe C., describing other military-related Bigfoot encounters, including another report from Fort Lewis in Pierce County, Washington. Here's the BFRO report, 1971. In the winter, month of March, it's from Washington State, Pierce County. It occurred in 1971, so if you could locate the barracks area of Company E, 4th Battalion, 2nd Brigade, you will find the location. All right, it was observed, the no nearest road that they know. I had basic training in Fort Lewis, Washington, and I was there from January 71 until May 71. I was assigned to Company E, 4th Battalion, 2nd Brigade, and that is where my barracks was. Between the barracks was an open field 100 yards or more wide. On the other side of the field was the outline of the forest began, and after them more trees and more trees. Well, anyway, it was winter and it had snowed. The area was covered in snow, and it was a cold, clear night. There was a full moon which illuminated the night sky. I can't recall what month it was. I was assigned guard duty of our barracks area, and my shift was the early morning hours after midnight. And I was to walk for 2 hours patrolling our company area, and you could hear the crunching of the snow under my boots as I walk. As I was walking towards the last barrack, I was facing the open field, and I saw something at the distance in front of where the forest trees began. It was walking towards me, and then it would stop. Where I stood, it looked to the right side of the area and to the left of the area, and saw only this thing in front of me. It started to move again towards me. I saw a silhouette of a figure, and it was all black. When it walked, it was swaying back and forth. Well, scared, I turned around and walked towards my barrack and went inside and told no one about what I saw. A day or two later, I think I was in Seattle. In the Seattle Times newspaper, there were photos taken of Bigfoot prints in the snow near a fence at a ranch in the area. Well, I wonder if this is what I saw that night. Come to think about the figure I saw looked like the thing on the DVD cover of The Legend of Boggy Creek. It was swaying back and forth as it walked, and that is the silhouette I saw, a black figure walking towards me. There is a follow-up investigation here, I guess. We should read that. This is by the BFRO researcher, who was Christine W. The witness was brand new, 19-year-old soldier going through basic training when he had this encounter. He was so new that he had not even been issued a weapon yet. The witness described himself as a city boy from San Jose, California, who was unused to the heavily wooded areas of the Pacific Northwest. The witness's assigned duty was to patrol the perimeter of the barracks area. He carried a folding shovel instead of a weapon. Jeez. He came to a field where that was about 100 yards to the tree line. In front of the tree line was a black figure that moved with an unusual swaying gait. When the figure stopped walking and held still, it blended so well into its background that it looked just like a stump or a tree. The soldier couldn't believe his eyes because they were not supposed to be any personnel out at that time of night. He looked to the left or the right of the figure and then back at it, just trying to figure out what he was seeing. What made it look unusual was the huge size, not much taller and bulkier than that of a man. The way it was able to blend into the background and its peculiar swaying walk. The witness said the shoulder area was exceptionally broad, that the figure looked big on top. The young man was scared by what he saw and decided to go back inside the barracks. He told no one for fear that he would be forced to investigate what was out there. He said his folding shovel didn't seem like a very effective weapon against an animal of this size. At the time of his sighting, the witness did not know what he was observing, and it was not until he saw an article about Sasquatch that he determined what he might have seen. Fort Lewis is almost 16 square miles in size and has a long history of possible Sasquatch activity within its borders. Here's another one from 1988. I don't think we'll read the BFRO one, or the BFRO take on this one, but we'll read the encounter. All right, so here it is. This one's from Alaska, rather, spring of '88 in March. All right, it's Wainwright Air Force Base in the southeasterly direction, about an hour before being dropped into the wilderness. Okay. All right, let's check it out. Observed in March of '88, I was the team commander, captain in rank of a Special Forces A team, conducting a strategic reconnaissance training mission in Alaska. There were 11 soldiers on the team with a lot of Special Forces experience between them. While we're wearing rucksacks and walking through deep snow in a wooded area with cross-country skis, as we approached an area where the woods were too thick to go through on the skis, we decided to walk ahead on snowshoes with 2 other soldiers to check out the way ahead. After walking about 200 meters into the thicker woods, we came across a set of tracks that immediately drew our attention. It's always the tracks. The tracks were obviously of a 2-legged creature walking through the woods on a course perpendicular to our own. Human tracks of any kind are extremely rare in that part of Alaska, but these were particularly unique due to the length of the stride and the fact that there was no crushed snow on either the entry or exit side of the holes. We stopped to investigate, and when each of us took off our snowshoes, we sank into the snow to a depth of about 2 feet above the knee. When we attempted to take a step in the deep snow, we left an area of crushed snow on the entry side of the hole and then crushed the snow again upon taking our foot out of the hole to take the next step. Our feet made a drag mark in the snow as well, no matter how hard we tried to extract the foot without touching the surrounding snow. The best any of us could do was a stride between the steps of about 1.5 feet. The tracks we were looking at had a stride of over 5 feet between the steps and left snow on both the entry and exits from the hole totally untouched. After discussing the rational possibilities for a while, I sent one of my men back to bring up the rest of the team, and between the 11 men on that team, we had over 150 years of combined Special Forces experience in the woods all over the planet. We also had extensive experience in the tracking of everything with either 2 or 4 legs. And we all studied the tracks and tried to come up with a reasonable explanation for what we were looking at. Excuse me. Only one explanation seemed to fit everything we saw, but it was not a reasonable explanation. Based on our group experience in tracking humans, we made an approximate determination as to the height and weight of the person who made the tracks based on the stride and the depth of indentation in the snow. The group consensus was a 2-legged person about around 9 feet tall, weighing approximately 500 to 600 pounds, and that was our best educated guess. I then made a decision to set the training mission aside for a while and to follow the tracks through the woods. Wearing snowshoes, we followed those tracks for about an hour before we heard it. From somewhere ahead of us and quite a distance from what we could tell, we heard the most horrific sound any of us have ever heard. Every other sound in the woods went instantly silent, and we could almost hear our hearts beating. The only other time any of us has ever heard that kind of silence in the wood or jungle was the last seconds before initiating an ambush. It's as though every creature and insect in the woods knows that something is about to die, and they go silent out of fear or self-preservation. After hearing the sound, it was a cross between a howl and a roar. My team sergeant, the most senior and experienced member of my team, stopped me and said, "Sir, Speaking for both myself and the rest of the team, we really do not want to know what is at the end of those tracks. All of the expletives were deleted. And this was surprising to me in that through all of their years in Special Forces, these men had never expressed a fear of anything on 2 or 4 legs. And I understood their consternation and agreed to resume the original mission. There was also a general consensus not to discuss the incident with anyone upon our return. Mind you, we were on a training mission and did not have live ammunition. So any eventual confrontation with whoever or whatever made those tracks would not have been without a great deal of danger. Our curiosity to know what it was that made the tracks was overcome by the reality that we would be no match for it. And more importantly, that we really did not want to know what was on the end of those tracks. Tracks in the snow are much easier to deny and ignore than actually seeing what made them. My soldiers and I were afraid of what we heard and saw, and those soldiers just didn't want to know. The tracks stayed on the military crest of ridge lines and in low areas as much as possible. The only time the tracks crossed a ridge line was in a saddle where it would not be seen. The thing which struck us all as odd was that while the tracks depicted someone far too large to be a human, whatever was making the tracks was moving through the woods exactly as one of us would have if they were conducting an escape and evasion. Whatever it was knew the land, and it maneuvered to bypass clearings well before they came into view, and was making a concentrated effort to remain unseen. I still think that the sound we heard was intended to warn us to back off and not to follow. I've thought back on that incident hundreds of times and wondered how it would have turned out if we had proceeded to follow those tracks. There were pros and cons to both sides of the issue. As for me, there were just some things that cannot be denied, and since then, I've had a very healthy respect for Sasquatch. So there you go. Very cool story. Very, very powerful. And it's interesting because there's some stories out there that talk about these special teams that go out and hunt down groups of Sasquatch that are problematic. And I don't know. I mean, I guess if they had live ammunition and stuff, maybe they would have been more willing to find what was on the end of those tracks. But on a training mission, yeah, you're just making sounds. That's about it. Shooting blanks is not going to get you safe. So, very cool story. I don't know. What do you guys think? Would you follow them all the way to the end? Some of you guys would. Excuse me. I'm always impressed by those people that go out and look. And, and several of them you may know. Like, people like Tex and stuff that go out and just, hey, I'm going to see what that was. What was that big 9-foot shadow I saw moving? It's like, yeah, I'll just be here in the tent. Thanks. You guys, good luck. I don't know. It's really frightening to think what could happen. What could happen? But I don't know. Very cool story, though. There's actually another one on there. or is there? No, that's the end of the story. Okay. So there is a little bit of follow-up for the BFRO guy, but that's just regurgitating what the narrative already said. So very cool story. Very cool. You just need the eyes to see the signs. You're right, Chucky. You're right. I just, the question is, and here's the thing, and I've said it many times and I'll say it again. I would love to think that these things are benevolent and wise, and they seem to very actively go out of their way to stay away from people and to avoid causing harm or avoid being harmed, both. But I can't ignore the First Nation histories that talk about the horrible side of these things, what they're potentially capable of. And I think you'd be a fool to not recognize that's possible. That they might They might actively avoid people, but if they're pushed, what choice do they have? If they feel like they're being hunted and it's putting them in a bad place, maybe they're just going to be like, all right, fine, screw it. Let's do this. Let's roll the dice. And then you're dealing with whatever that is. I just think it's pretty wild. Hi, Henry Don. Good to see you. Good to see you. So I think it's interesting. I thought there was a Sasquatch sighting today, but it was just cummerbund wrapped around a gourd. Just another Sasquatch. Tattoo Alley coming in. Good to see you, though. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd be fine with letting it be, too. Again, I'll be honest. I would like the answers to this riddle, but realistically speaking, I know they're probably not going to come from me. Like, those answers are probably not going to be something I'm going to dig into and find out for you guys. My hat's off to those of you who are willing to do that or capable of doing that. I know my own physical limitations, and I know that I am not a agile forest creature. I'm good with pavement and carpet, but once the terrain gets tricky, so does my ability to survive. Hello, Annette Smith. Good to see you. Good to see you. You forgot the letter N, but I've been called Brett my whole life too. I think it was just a typo though. But it's always a great journey. Again, I'll be back tomorrow night and we'll dig into this again here on the portal. We'll find more things to get into and more stories to discuss. But until then, I hope you had a great time. Thank you all for joining me and being a part of the journey. As always, it's a rare pleasure to do these shows. It's an even bigger pleasure to see all you guys turning out to be a part of it. So, that's going to wrap up tonight's journey. I hope life is good for you. It seems to be good enough. Thank you. I seem to be doing pretty well. Thank you for asking. And I hope it is for you as well, Annette. Thank you. But that's it for tonight. So I hope you guys had a good time. Thank you to all of you guys for joining us and being a part of it. And I'll be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you wanna come hang out with me, I'll be here. Wherever you're watching now, just come back tomorrow night. All right, so that's all I got for you for tonight. So you guys take care. Remember, love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other, help each other out. Find the magic in every day and remember to laugh as much as you can. That's going to wrap it up for us here on the portal. See you tomorrow night, guys. Take care. Have a good Saturday. See you Saturday night. Good night, everybody.